courtroom was silent. Too silent. The kind of silence that feels like judgment, like the air itself is holding its breath. At the center of it sat an old man with trembling hands, his once steady soldier's grip now weakened by age. His jacket was faded, but the medals pinned to it glimmered stubbornly under the harsh lights, like tiny pieces of a forgotten past, still refusing to die. Then the judge leaned forward, smirked, and spoke loudly enough for the entire courtroom to hear. "These medals, are you sure they're even real?" A few soldiers in the back shifted uncomfortably. The old man lifted his eyes, cloudy but still burning with something deeper than anger. Pain, memory, truth. Before he could defend himself, the heavy courtroom doors swung open. Boots echoed. A high-ranking general stepped inside. And in that one moment, everything, every whisper, every doubt, every insult, came to a sudden, shattering stop. The veteran Samuel Hayes had lived many lives in silence. Once he was a man who led others into darkness, so they could return to the light. Once he bore the weight of missions no newspaper dared to print, and losses no ceremony could heal. But now, at 78, he sat in a courtroom accused of impersonating a decorated soldier. The very thing he had actually been for most of his life. It started when he intervened in a late-night assault outside a store, protecting a young boy from two armed robbers. In the chaos, his old jacket had torn open, revealing medals he almost never wore. Instead of praising him, the local officer questioned how an old man with shaky legs could possibly have earned honors usually reserved for battlefield legends. From suspicion came arrest, and from arrest came the humiliating trial. The judge, a sharp-tongued man who valued appearances more than truth, looked at Samuel with thinly veiled disgust. "You expect this court to believe you, a retired mechanic, living alone, barely able to walk without a cane, earned these medals?" Samuel's jaw tightened. His voice, though weak, held the echo of old authority. "I didn't earn them to impress anyone. I earned them so others could come home." But the judge was already shaking his head. People in the gallery murmured. Some chuckled. Others looked down, uncomfortable, but unwilling to defend a stranger. Samuel sat there alone, shrinking under years of misunderstanding and doubt. He had spent a lifetime hiding his service, honoring the promise he made to his fallen brothers. Never brag, never seek applause. But now that same humility was being used to destroy him. When the judge finally asked, "Can you even prove your rank?" Samuel looked down at his hands, scared by time. "My records, many were classified. Some were lost. That was another era. That's not an answer." The judge snapped. The prosecutor smirked as if the case was already won. The courtroom was moments away from stamping the word, fraud, onto a man who had given everything, and asked for nothing. And then, the doors opened. A decorated general, tall, sharp, and unmistakably authoritative, stepped into the room. His presence alone felt like a shift in gravity. Conversations died instantly. The soldiers sitting in the back straightened their spines at once, as if their training had activated on instinct. Samuel didn't turn around. He didn't dare believe the footsteps behind him. But he felt something familiar. Something from a distant past when loyalty wasn't a word but a heartbeat. The judge frowned. "And who are you to walk into my—" But the general didn't stop walking. His eyes locked onto Samuel Hayes with a mixture of shock, recognition, and respect, and the judge's words evaporated in his throat. General Marcus Ellery had seen heroes die in silence, buried in unmarked graves of classified missions and forgotten wars. But he had also seen one man stand between chaos and collapse more times than any soldier ever should. That man was Samuel Hayes. "Your Honor," General Ellery said, his voice deep and commanding. "Before you proceed, I need to address this court." The judge blinked, unsure whether to assert his authority or bow to the brass. "And who exactly are you?" he asked. Ellery stepped forward, placing a folder thick with documents on the judge's desk. "I am the commanding officer of the unit. This veteran saved more times than I could count." He glanced at Samuel, and for a moment, the rigid facade of the general softened. "And before you continue humiliating him, You should know that those medals are not only real. They barely scratch the surface of what this man has done." A ripple of whispers surged through the courtroom. Samuel closed his eyes. He never wanted this. Never wanted his past to be dragged into the light. But Ellery continued. "This man," the general said, "led rescue missions behind enemy lines when the rest of us believed survival was impossible." He pointed gently at the medals. "That one, earned after he shielded 3 wounded soldiers from mortar fire with nothing but his body. That one, awarded after he carried a fallen comrade 5 miles under pursuit. And that one the nation doesn't even know about. It's from an operation that is still classified today." The judge's expression melted from arrogance to disbelief. The prosecutor looked suddenly very small. Even the soldiers in the back stared at Samuel like they were seeing a legend they had only heard stories about. The general's voice dropped, thick with emotion. He never talked about it because real heroes don't need to. They simply do the job. Samuel finally whispered, "Marcus, you didn't have to do this." Ellery placed a firm hand on his shoulder. "I did. Because you were there for every one of us. And now, when the world wants to doubt you, I'm here for you." The room fell into a silence far different from the one before, no longer heavy with judgment, but with awe. The judge swallowed hard. "Mr. Hayes, it appears this court owes you a profound apology." Samuel didn't smile. He wasn't a man who needed applause. Instead, he simply nodded, relief softening the burden he had carried for decades. But the general wasn't done. "Your Honor," Ellery said, "I request that all charges be dismissed immediately, and that this man receive the recognition he has long been denied." The judge agreed without hesitation. As the gavel struck, soldiers in the back stood, not because anyone ordered them to, but because respect demanded it. A silent salute rose from every uniform in the room. For the first time in years, Samuel Hayes lifted his head, and the weight of forgotten heroism finally slid from his shoulders.